Well, good morning everybody. It's April the 18th. It's a beautiful sunny day here. I think maybe spring is finally on its way. It's not going to be here for a while yet. Usually the snow is gone by the end of May or thereabouts, but it's coming. Today's video is I was tagged by Patriot Farms, and for any of you who may not know Patriot Farms, it's a really beautiful homestead in the mountains of North Carolina, and you really should go and watch it. There's goats and pigs and chickens and a small orchard and all kinds of a vegetable garden. It's just a beautiful spot. I really think you should go and check that out. The tag that I got was for it was a 10-question tag, basically about homesteading, and I know a lot of you don't necessarily think of me as a homesteader, but I do live in that kind of an atmosphere. So I accepted the tag, and let's go on and see what we can get out of it. So the first question is, do I homestead full-time, or do I have a job and just homestead part-time? I think probably most people probably start off homesteading part-time, just as a means to get going. I've probably homesteaded or lived this lifestyle. Wasn't really a word in those days, but I was born into this type of thing. You know, I grew up back in the 50s and the 60s, and farms and people just automatically had vegetable gardens, kitchen gardens, and raised animals, and then, you know, all those crops came due at the same time of the year, so you canned them and preserved them in whatever way you could. So, whoops, I'm gonna have to readjust that. Timber just whacked the camera stand. Hang on for a sec. Okay, let's try that again. So I am full-time, but I'm at a point where I've been retired, but I was pretty much nearly a full-time anyhow. I was self-employed most of my life, so I had the opportunity to spend a lot of time on my property and with my gardens and so on. So certainly I started off, I guess, as a part-timer in a sense, but it's definitely full-time now for sure. Second question would be, what was the first livestock animal that I put on my homestead? It was a long time ago. There's two that come to mind, and it was so long ago I don't remember which one I got first, on my own property anyways, and I believe it was Scottish Highland cattle. But about the same time I started raising chickens as well, and it was very close together that I got those, so I can't actually remember which one I technically got first, but they were within a couple of 3 weeks of each other, so I guess you'll have to take your pick on that one. It's the best I can remember. It was many years ago. So the third question was, which I thought was kind of strange, but what's my favorite way to cook eggs? That's probably the hardest question in the whole place, in the whole questionnaire here. Eggs are so versatile. There's just, you know, there's so many ways you can cook and enjoy eggs. It's hard to single out any one thing. I guess if I had to pick just one to keep it simple, I would say scrambled, because, you know, there are omelets and anyways. So I'm going to go with scrambled, just as keeping it a sort of a simple answer to that one. The fourth question: now, how big is my current homestead, and how much bigger would I want it to be? So I just recently got another piece of property. My homestead was just under 11 acres, a bit over 10, and that was pretty good. You know, it was a lot of bush on it, but it's still, you know, you can clear it and do what you want with it. Currently, I just got a hold of a 1/4 square mile of land, a quarter section. So it's a 1/4 square mile, which is 160 acres. That's probably going to be the primary location but it's just raw land right now. There's nothing there, just bush and some open areas and so on, a big beaver pond and such. So it's going to take some development. There's not so much as a lean-to or anything on the property right now, and So once I spend some time working on that, I guess that's going to be the primary and only portion of my location. But that's going to take a lot of work. But it's coming. And no, I don't want it any bigger. It's a little overwhelming as it is. Okay, number 5. What are some of the homestead skills that I would like to learn in the next 5 years? That's pretty hard. I have spent a lifetime growing up on the old style farms, homestead type places, and developing my skills myself since then. I'm not by any means trying to suggest I know it all, but I've probably got a pretty good handle on the things that I use on a regular basis. There are a lot of skills that just don't really apply to me in this area, for example, because of climate or whatever. I don't grow fruit trees, for example. So, grafting and pruning are things I'm aware of. I've seen it done. I've actually tried it, but it's certainly not something that I could say I know that much about. But the main reason for it is I really don't have any practical use for it. Same with raising bees or something. I would love to have a couple of beehives. I know very little about it other than the basics that most people know. But again, the climate's not that great for keeping bees over the winter, and people do up in this area, but it's not uncommon for them to lose a hive or two each winter because of the cold. So it's not a practical return for the time and effort you put into it. So I'm probably not going to do that either. But that type of thing, I suppose, would be skills that I would need to learn if the opportunity arose. So number 6, what do I think about fake meat? I think that's pretty obvious. I don't like fake anything. It's anything that's not the real deal is a cheap copy, a substitute. In the case of any kind of food, meat or GMO, all that stuff, that can be outright dangerous. That stuff's not good for you. It's not healthy. That is produced solely by corporations who are interested in profit margin. They don't give a hoot whether that stuff has any food value to you. They don't even care if it has a negative value in terms of being bad for your health. They want something that looks pretty, they want something that lasts long on a shelf so it stays fresh looking, and they want something that they can make as cheap as they can for the biggest profit margin. And to me, that's no good for anything, not any product at all, and it's absolutely intolerable for anything that's a food product. So I think I'm pretty straightforward on that one. Okay, what does my dream homestead look like? Well, I guess I'm going to find out. I have a piece of raw land, as I just said. I'm probably, I like the old pioneer style, old-fashioned. I don't want to put a home on it that looks modern in any way. There will never be a piece of drywall ever go on that property. I want to build with logs from the property, whether I build an older traditional log cabin, but I also very much like the post and beam type. Something like a friend of mine disassembled a barn that he was able to buy that the people wanted removed from the property. So he bought the barn really cheap, disassembled it, moved it to his property, and rebuilt it and made it into a home. And it's absolutely breathtaking. The big timbers and the hewn marks from the broad axes. The building was built somewhere in the mid 1800s. That's got more soul and more character than any home that's ever going to be put together these days. So I think that kind of a theme is where I'm going to go. What I can accomplish, that's going to be another story, but I'm going to give it my best shot. What is my least favorite thing to do on a homestead? I don't know. I kind of like that lifestyle, so it's pretty hard to choose. I guess it's the same as hunting or anything like that. I don't really like to kill that much. I enjoy hunting mostly because I'm a meat hunter. I have to admit that the challenge can be a little bit exciting at times. Anything that gets me out in the bush is always a good thing for me. But at the same time, I can't say that I enjoy taking a life. So I guess in terms of a homestead, having to raise an animal and then turn it into meat for the freezer. I do all my own butchering. That way I know exactly what I have. and it's all homegrown meat, so it's all organic and clear and clean. But I can't say it's a pleasant task by any means, so I guess that would have to be it. What is one piece of advice I would give my past self? Holy smokes, that's a loaded question. Gee, I think I'm going to say stay single. I know that's going to take a little explanation here. I think that when we're young, we're still growing ourselves. We probably don't really know the person that we're going to end up being, and that's true with the other person that's part of the relationship. They're still in a point where they're growing. At 20 years old, we're considered to be adults, but we really aren't mature in the sense of being settled in a direction. We're still a little bit impressionable, I guess, or whatever. So, you can be led in different directions. I think when you're going to do anything, and homesteading is one that takes a lot of dedication, because when you've got animals, there really aren't any days off. So you need to know what you want to do and be able to focus on that. And a lot of times when people get married young, they tend to grow apart rather than together. So I think I'm going to have to go with that one. I know it's a bit of an odd answer, but that's the first thing that came to my mind. What is one animal that I would never raise on my homestead? I think I'm going to have to go with not a specific animal by species, but a type of animal, I suppose. And by that I mean trying to raise an animal that isn't sort of indigenous to the area, that's sort of a tropical style animal, for example, is taken extreme. In an area like mine where the climate's very cold is just a tough job. Raising stock can be a bit of a frustrating job anyhow, but to raise something that's fragile in your area, in your climate, just tremendously adds to the amount of energy that it takes, the amount of expense it takes to put in some kind of housing that's going to protect it from the weather that it's not able to deal with. It's just a tough job all the way around. So anything that would be exotic, and by exotic I would mean not from my general area, I think I'm going to have to stay away from that kind of thing, because it just, it can be a money pit, it can be frustrating, and it's extremely time consuming. So I'm going to go with something that's just not capable of handling the climate where I am. And that was question number 10. Now apparently there's a bonus question here. If money was no object, what is one thing that I would add to my homestead? Well, as I said, right now anything that I put on my homestead is an addition, because there's absolutely nothing there but bush and trees. I enjoy building my own stuff, so I don't want to say about coming inside, having somebody do something for me, because that's not it at all. In fact, I think sometimes having extra amount of money you need the money that you require on a daily basis. You need the money to put in some of your superstructure in a case like mine where there's nothing there at all and I have to start from scratch essentially. But also, when you're in a lifestyle like that where you're off-grid or trying to live a simpler lifestyle, if you've got quite a bit of money and saved up in the bank beyond your immediate needs, let's say, it's an awful temptation. It can tempt you to take the easy way out. You can be drawn away from the do-it-yourself kind of attitude. You can be drawn away from I enjoy doing it myself. I want to do it my way. I want the satisfaction of building my own home, because anybody can pay for one if you've got a mortgage or whatever. But I want to be able to do it. I want to have my own hands do it. And if the money is too available, the temptation, as I said, is there to, well, I'm running out of time, I'm in a bit of a hurry, I'm feeling a little bit tired, maybe I'm just feeling a little bit lazy, let's get somebody to come in and do this part for me. And so I don't want that to happen. And one of the best ways to do it is to sort of have it out of reach. If I was going to add something that would benefit me, I would probably end up with some kind of a tractor or a loader with a backhoe attachment on it. Something like that would be probably invaluable in terms of construction, moving logs, lifting logs into place with the hydraulics on those piece of equipment. So I'm going to probably go with that. So that concludes my 10 questions and my bonus. And I'm going to tag somebody or a couple of somebodies, but I haven't quite exactly decided who it's going to be. So I'm going to put that into the description. And I hope you enjoyed it. It was kind of fun. These questions, when I first looked at them, I thought, well, that's pretty simple. You know, who's going to want to see that? But the more you think about it, it gets a little bit tougher to try and come up with a decent answer, like an honest answer. But everybody have a great day, and we'll see you next week. We'll see you all down the trail. Take care.